Greetings, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're logged in from. Welcome to this webinar, The Status of Missing Children in Africa. Today is International Missing Children's Day, and my apologies, first of all, for the delayed starting because a lot of our members also had different physical activities related to this day, and so they were trying to be logistically well placed. But now our panelists are all present, and we can begin with the program. My name is Mariana Munyendo from Missing Child Kenya. I'm the founder of Missing Child Kenya, and I'll be your moderator for this webinar. The webinar is being streamed live on Mtoto News. A link will be shared in the chat box. For this webinar format, we have a Q&A section at the bottom where if you have any comment or question, feel free to fill it in the Q&A section or in the chat box, and our panelists will be looking at them and will respond appropriately. Once again, welcome as we mark the International Day for Missing Children, which is observed globally. We felt it fit to have a discussion on the status of missing children. Specifically, looking at this webinar, we looked at it from the point of view of bringing together African agencies or initiatives that are already active following up on matters of missing children. And so today's webinar is more like a clean slate, a starting point, a tabula rasa of sorts, so that we can continue with these conversations at different levels once we have started today's discussion. And so we saw this as an opportunity for Impact as Missing Child Kenya and said, let us bring together agencies and initiatives around the continent that are looking at matters of missing children. Our objective today is, number one, to create awareness on issues of prevention and response issues related to missing children in Africa. And secondly, to introduce and showcase the countries and agencies that have initiatives of missing children in Africa. And third, to initiate opportunities for dialogue and interagency cooperation. Today in Kenya, we have marked the day, and our theme has been Together We Can Help Bring Our Missing Children Back Home. And so we're just looking at it from the point of what can we do together collaboratively. Our speaker panel is very, very rich and diverse in experience. And so I will be giving each of them an opportunity to present their organization and talk about what they are doing in relation to missing children. And then from here, we can be able to fill in our questions and comments. Today, we have organizations from Kenya, Missing Child Kenya and Childline 116. Tanzania, we have SEMA Tanzania and Missing Child Tanzania. From Namibia, we have Missing Persons Unit Namibia. And from Ghana, we have Missing Children Ghana. From South Africa, we have Missing Children South Africa. And regionally, we have representation from the Eastern Africa Child Rights Network of Civil Society Organizations. Without taking too long at the stage of introductions, let me just quickly delve into our speakers. And I will start from Kenya, where we have Martha Sunda. I'm just going to read her bio briefly, and then we will be showing her presentation as she speaks. So just a second, Martha. Great, found it. Martha is the Executive Director of Childline Kenya. Childline Kenya is a non-governmental organization which operates the National Helpline 116 service. Can you hear me now? Raise your hand if you can hear me. Very faint now. How about now? Can you hear me? Better. Great, thank you. I'll just read the second part of Martha's bio. I said Martha holds a master's degree in child development and a bachelor's degree in community development and psychology, both from Daystar University. She has served in child protection in various capacities since 2007. She's a doting mother of 3 children and a loving wife. She has a deep passion for children and believes that our society's successes and failures are determined by the values at home and the way children are socialized and protected or not. For this reason, she gives her best to all children as her own and values the family unit, and she loves cats. I'd like to welcome Martha Sunda.
Today's event, it was very successful, and we pray that all missing children will be found safe. So I'll go straight into the presentation because of time, and I hope we can all hear me. I'll introduce the organization briefly, and then the work we do around missing children, and then a bit of the challenges and call to action. So we are Childline Kenya, an NGO, but we work very, very closely with the government of Kenya through the Directorate of Children's Services. And our work really is to manage the National Child Helpline 116 service with the government. And we specifically complement the work of the government by providing a team of experts who are counselors. Some of them are social workers. Some of them are community development experts. Some of them are lawyers who then respond to the issues of children that are reported through the helpline service. So the helpline service can be used to report violations against children. People can call in to ask for support with mental health issues, so counseling, therapy, and also they can get information on child protection issues in general and specific, depending on their needs. So we are the official government of Kenya partner for the management of the National Child Helpline Service in Kenya. What specifically do? We provide child and family therapy for free to the children in distress and their families or community through the helpline. That is an online service, but also we can provide that one-on-one, depending on where the child is and the specific need they have. We also assist in seeking justice for the violated children free of charge again. So we have a group or a team of pro bono lawyers that we also work with from all over the country, to whom then these cases are referred, and they're able to coordinate the access to services, legal services for these children. We also then refer and follow up cases of children for additional services. Sometimes they need rescue, sometimes they need placement in a safe shelter, for example. Sometimes they might need tracing of their families and reintegration, in which case then we refer to organizations that have expertise in this area, say the police or the hospitals, obviously, who provide medical services, so that they can be assisted accordingly. And in the process of doing all this, we then document these cases, not just to have these cases recorded, but most importantly, to show evidence of what the situation is for children in the country, and also then to advocate for better services for children, perhaps better quality and timeliness of access to services by the children whom we serve. We also inform and educate the public, including children, on keeping children safe and everybody's role in it, including the children themselves having a role in it. So what specifically are the channels of access to the helpline? They're there. We have the telephone service, which is toll-free, 116, and it's available 24/7. We have the online chat through our website. We have Facebook, we have Twitter, and we also have WhatsApp, we have Instagram, and we have email. So all these are available for children to use and their families whenever they need to talk to someone. And also some of the children and their families are more comfortable using one channel over the other. So we provide the options for them. Now, specifically for missing children, we, being a hotline and as a helpline service, we continue receiving reports of cases and issues affecting children, and some of them are around missing children. So I have given a snapshot of the cases we have handled in the past 3 years. And those are the numbers. In 2019, we had 111 cases. In 2020, that shot to 475. In 2021, that went slightly down to 255. And these cases are reported on an ongoing basis. And then, so after they have been reported, what do we do with them? So move to the next slide. We have three main pillars of our work. And one of them is education or creation of awareness around child protection issues, and specifically on missing children. It is education and awareness on keeping children safe from going missing, and everybody's role in it, therefore. And that includes children, their families, community members, teachers, and everybody responsible for children. So what is my role as a parent, for example, in ensuring that my children are kept safe and children around me are kept safe? What is the role of the child themselves in ensuring that whatever they do does not predispose them to getting lost or being missing in that sense then? So we give a lot of education. We post messages on our social media pages for children to remain safe and for other people to keep these children safe as well. The second pillar of our work is access to child protection services. And in our case, then we provide the National Child Helpline Service free of charge to the children, so that they are able to access the services from anywhere in Kenya whenever they need it in the shortest time possible, and to therefore get access, assistance or services. When a child goes missing, time is of the essence. The sooner we start looking for them, the higher the chances we have of therefore getting them back home and safely. And the third pillar of our work is in response, strengthening response, so that reported cases are efficiently and effectively responded to or resolved. And this includes referrals, which I have spoken to earlier, providing therapy, and active follow-up of these cases with their families, with their partners. We are working with the other service providers to ensure that these children are attended to in the best possible way and in the shortest time possible as well. Now, this does not mean that our work is easy or that we do not meet any challenges. So we have some challenges in the process of responding to cases of missing children. And these are some of the challenges. One, in Kenya, the guidelines for handling missing children cases are still under development. And so we don't have an approved launch version that we can use. And so clients they get different guidance from different people around how to handle issues of missing children. So you might find, for example, people are told, don't even report to the police until after 24 hours, which could be a misleading. It is actually misleading to wait all that long before you report that the child is missing. So we need some guidelines that give us structure on how to deal with these children. Who do we then report to when we realize our child is missing? What information do we need to put together or to provide? All those things, so that it is easy and the standards are clear for everybody to follow. And then now at the helpline, many reports of children who have gone missing Hi, can you hear me now? Brilliant, thank you. So I wanted to talk about the helpline experience while receiving these reports. Many times the reports are made to us, but with very scanty information. So someone would say the child is lost. They don't have their photo. They don't have their details of their age. They don't know who they were with. They don't know where they were last seen. They just know the child is missing. So this makes it a little more difficult then to put together the details of this child to start looking for them. And so when you ask them for more information, some of them get upset because what they want you to do is actually just start looking. And you can't just start looking without the relevant information. Some of the challenges, or another challenge, is that children and their families do not necessarily prepare for any eventuality around a child going missing. And so you find a child is not prepared with information about where they live, some landmarks, contacts of their parents, where do they go to church, things like that, that would help them to trace this child, or at least to start looking for the child. And the caregivers also do not even know who the friends of their children are, or where their children spend their time, or the places they frequent and with whom. So when they start checking, they have very little information to guide this process. Sometimes the parents don't even know that their children, for example, own gadgets or have access to gadgets like telephone, computers, and things like that. So that makes it a little difficult to start tracing those children, or it slows down the process. And then we have syndicates or organized criminal groups that also make it very difficult to therefore look for these children and to provide the services that are required, because some of these syndicates have compromised the system so much so that even when you go now to get the assistance of some authorities, you get so many obstacles and you're not able to therefore do the needful, or at least get them to take action at their authority levels. For example, if it is the police, maybe if it is the area chief or the village elders. And so with limited support, then you have the progress in looking for this child becomes a little more slowed down or difficult. And then also with missing children, it is important that we send out information for these children to be able to be found. But there's another group of people, criminals, who then you take advantage of this information to then extort the families or to threaten the families or to traumatize them into what? Following false leads, giving out money in the pretext of they have their child, they're going to give the child to them. And so that becomes a delicate balance because you have to release this information for this child to be found, but someone else is taking advantage of it to therefore take advantage of the family and perhaps even the child. So what are we calling out for? One, everybody has a role to play in keeping children safe, generally, and specifically keeping them safe from going missing. So if you find a child on their own, they're unaccompanied, it is your role really to check out who is responsible for this child, where are they from, how can I assist? And so we are encouraged not to turn a blind eye on the issues of children and especially those who go missing. And also in Africa, for example, we have been allocated the number 116 for child helplines. Kenya was the first country to adopt this number. More than 20 additional countries in Africa have adopted this number, which is a good thing. We are advocating for more countries, if possible, all countries in Africa to take up this number so that the child, whenever or wherever a child finds themselves on the continent, they don't have to remember anything else apart from the number 116, for example, and they will be assisted. So that is an advocacy issue. We are really asking that many more countries take up this number. And finally, for Kenya, we need to finalize the missing children guidelines for Kenya so that it provides us a standard for everybody, the children, their families, caregivers, the people who are mandated to provide services for children, government, to be able to follow that standard, to therefore respond to issues of children who have gone missing effectively and efficiently. And let's see more children being found and being found safe. So thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation today. Over back to you, Mariana.
One part of the network of partners that we work with and in distribution of alerts. Please feel free to introduce yourself at the chat box so that everyone can know who is in attendance. Part of being in attendance in this webinar is also just to exchange contact details and see opportunities for collaboration and working together. Thank you, Martha, for your perspective on 116, Kenya's National Child Helpline and matters of missing children. Remember to fill in your questions in the chat box or comments to Martha, and she'll be able to respond. We are live on Total News on YouTube, streaming also the current webinar. Next, I'm going to go to Tanzania. And for Tanzania, we're also going to look at a similar child helpline, CSEMA Tanzania 116 also. And I'm going to be having Faith Mkonyi to share with us her perspective. So I'll briefly look at Faith's bio and share it with the attendees. So Faith Mkonyi is a communication expert and child protection advocate. She holds a bachelor's degree in psychology from the University of Dar es Salaam. Faith is familiar with the risks that children face on a day-to-day basis, especially in the digital era, and works to change the narrative on online child safety and better parenting methods that ultimately shape who children become in the future. She does so by writing informative parenting articles that not only showcase the dangers that children experience physically and online, but also holds parents accountable for their actions and responsibilities towards their children. She also curates stories from the calls received at the helpline, cleverly dubbed as 116 stories, which she posts on social media platforms. Faith believes that by shedding a light on online child safety and more positive ways of parenting in the society, children will stand a chance to grow up in a protective environment and become self-sufficient, responsible adults who know better, thus ending the cruel cycle of abuse within families. Without saying much more, let us welcome Faith to share about her work at CSEMA Tanzania. Faith, welcome. Faith will continue. Faith has been added to the panelists. Faith, you can go ahead. Yes, Faith, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
I'm a communications specialist working at CSEMA. Thank you thank you, Martha, and thank you, Mariana, for hosting this event and presenting for us on the. Am I audible?
Yes, Faith, we can hear you.
Okay. Yes. So I just wanted to say thank you to Martha for the very great presentation that she gave, and I want to speak about CSEMA and the helpline and the work that we do here to make sure that children are safe in Tanzania, but also to report and speak out about any kind of abuse that they're facing, and if it's through the helpline, which is our core strategic program. So I want to dive into speaking about that, and also parenting in the digital era and all that it encompasses, especially focusing on how it affects reporting and missing children in Tanzania. So if I could get the next slide. Okay, so CSEMA is a not-for-profit organization, and the key thing that we do is that we promote and protect children's rights in Tanzania. And an interesting fact is that SEMA is a Swahili term which means speak. So the C in CSEMA stands for children, which ideally means children speak. So we're giving a platform for children to speak and talk about their issues and all their fears through the helpline, which is our core strategic program that we conduct here. And together with the Internet Watch Foundation, we remove images of child sexual abuse from the internet through an online portal that is found on our social media platforms as well as our website. We also run an SMS portal for sharing information on issues around children and parenting, especially nutrition, child and maternal nutrition especially. We also share our experiences on social media in the areas of parenting through our hashtag, which is Malezi, and we also post articles on any topic that concerns children, but that also impacts parents as well. We also post 116 stories, which are the stories that we derive from the helpline, and through those stories we get to share experiences that children or the people that have reported that they've had. So using those stories, we share them, and the public gets to see exactly what happens, the reality of the situation that takes place through the helpline. The next slide. Okay, so how the helpline actually works. We have the reporting part, which is when a child or a parent, a neighbor or a teacher calls 116, and from any telephone service provider. And when they report to us, it depends on the issue that they're facing. So the caller may receive counseling if it's necessary, or if they have an issue that we can't provide immediate response, we signpost it to the relevant service provider. After that, when let's say the case is at the police children and gender desk or the social welfare officer, we look for feedback after a couple of days, and the feedback is we do it either by calling the person who called the first time, the caller, or the service provider himself that the case was then posted to. So when we do that, we see the entire process, the reporting part where we do the linking, and where we get the feedback, knowing if the case has been taken care of, or if the person who called has gotten the service that he or she wanted initially. Next slide. So this is the CHL data that we've received throughout the years, and it's just a glimpse from only the mainland side. So you can see from 2013 up to 2022, there's a trend of the calls that we receive, and the responsive calls are the calls that we get that have immediate responses, that we actually help the callers directly. So you can see in 2013, when we started, we had like 1,510 calls, and then it just proceeded after that. Then we had a small decline in 2015 and 2016, but then you can see the rise in 2017 up to 2020, because there's a lot of need in 2020 because of the pandemic, and there's just so many questions, and we got a lot of calls at the helpline because of that. Next slide. Yes, so these are the non-responsive calls, and these are the calls that do not get immediate responses. So it's either IVRs, or they're prank calls, or this call that we haven't exactly had any kind of responses to. And just for clarification, IVRs stand for integrated voice recordings, that if you call the helpline and let's say you get this voice that tells you if you want, let's say, a certain information, you can press 2, or if you want this, you can press 3. So some people opt to just listen to that and get the information that they want instead of talking directly to the counselor. There's also you can also see the trend that was there since 2013 up to 2020, the rise of the calls, of the non-responsive calls. And people do prank a lot, and some people just call and they want to tell you stories, and sometimes children call themselves and they just want to speak about anything, and we get to listen, and sometimes it's interesting, sometimes it's kind of here and there. Next slide. Okay, so this is the child helpline data that we collected from January 2021 to January 2022. So you can see we have trafficking, which is, trafficking, labor, missing children, and cases of abduction. The cases that were reported of missing children were very few in number compared to the ones that were reported for trafficking or labor and abduction, which is also a key challenge that we face here, because if a child goes missing, it's the actual report comes in very late, or it doesn't come in at all. So we get calls about trafficking, get calls about labor, calls about child abduction, and sometimes child we were able to find him or her, but the actual cases for the person who's missing are very few in number. Next slide. So this is particularly what I wanted to share, because I strongly believe that at this day and age, we are, in a world where we are now parenting through social media, and it's either we can use that for good or use that for bad. And children spend a lot of time on gadgets, and raising children in this day and age is very challenging. And I think a lot of people can agree to that. Parenting approaches and attitudes vary, and the use of social media and the internet has been prevalent. And sometimes this the internet and social media actually is a cause for why children go missing, because the people that they meet, the parents don't know them, we haven't met them, and they haven't met them, so it's kind of easy for them to get roped into danger if they aren't aware themselves. Next slide. Yes, so this is the data that we derived from the Disrupting Harm Tanzanian report that was conducted for online child's sexual exploitation and abuse. So you can, in Tanzania, the trend for children who use the internet usually from 12 to 17-year-olds. So we have a total number of, let's say, from children who are 12 to 13, about 67% of them use into the internet and gadgets, and then from 14 to 15, we have about 42%. But 16 to 17 years, we have about 68% of internet users were children, and 88% of these are girls, 64% of these are boys, 70% are found in rural areas, while 65% are found in urban areas. So you can see, like, there's a lot happening within these ages, who are actively using the internet and actively probably don't even know if they're in danger, or if they are talking to people who can cause them harm. And so to me, this is a very big concern that I have, and I think a lot of people can agree on that. Next slide, please. So how exactly can we do this? How exactly does CISEMA operate in helping to spread awareness or talking about child safety using the internet itself in a positive way? So what we do, we create articles on positive parenting. We create articles on child safety, both online and physically, self-care tips, fun facts, etc., and the rest. And we post them on our social media platforms in order to instigate conversation on that particular topic. For example, about 3 weeks ago, or like a month ago, we ran a small campaign on missing children, and what parents should know about what to do, or how and why a child goes missing, and what they can teach their children to do when they actually get lost or they can't be found. So we think that that is a good way to not only spread the awareness about keeping yourself and your child safe, but also to get them to get the children to know themselves how to keep themselves safe, instead of just talking to the parents. We also curate stories derived from the calls received at the helpline. I talked about this in the previously, and we call them 116 stories. So these stories give the public a glimpse of actual real life events. And we also advocate for the helpline itself, making sure that people know that it's there and it works 24 hours to receive calls from children and parents, and especially right now we're trying to make sure that they're aware that you can call if a child goes missing. You can call 116. You don't have to wait 24 hours or reach out to the police. You can call us and we'll do the rest, and we'll contact the people that are necessary. We also produce magazines every quarter containing useful tips and articles for children and to read and learn about their rights, what to do, etc. The next slide, please. So the reason why we do this, like I said, is that we really want to start conversations. So particularly, I want to start a conversation on better parenting methods. Keeping children safe online has really shown a light on social media, and using it as a tool that can promote accountability from parents and members of society. Also, the articles emphasize positive parenting in the media. It works to change the narrative around the kind of parenting that we are used here in the Tanzanian culture. Also, raising children in a world that is steeped in online activity and connection confirms that parents have a very big role to play in keeping their children safe. And it also highlights the concerns that a lot of people have, or like parents have, on their own capacity to deal with online safety issues. We also strongly believe that educating children to keep themselves safe is better than actually parents keeping them safe, because they're not with them all the time. They spend very little time with them. So the children themselves should be very, very informed, more than probably anybody else. The next slide, please. So this is a case study that we got a couple of last month, about a young girl who she was trafficked, we can say, and the way she was trafficked was very. It was a pretense. She was told that she should get a better education outside of her village, and wanting to do that, she agreed and she went. But then when she realized that these people don't have the best of intentions, she had to run away. And thankfully, a good Samaritan was able to find her, and we worked with her, and we together with the SWOs and the authorities were able to get her back home, which was a very big win for not only us, but also for the helpline itself, because we actually see that it's actually happening. The next slide. These are one of the few challenges that we face as a helpline: the reporting, false reports, and very low awareness in some areas. Sometimes also the referral systems kind of fails us in a way, because there are few social welfare officers, and not because they're not there, just because they're not being allocated in those particular areas. There's also lack of cooperation from some of them, and also like from the authorities. Some callers are not honest with why they're calling. Also, sometimes the locations is very far away, so we can't reach that there. Also, technology sometimes plays a part in the challenges that we face for reception, system glitches, and things like that. But we are really trying to make sure that these challenges don't stop us, and we keep working towards the goal, which is child safety, and making sure that everyone is aware, but also working towards protecting their own children and also the children that are in the country. Thank you very much for listening. You can follow our work at Tanzania and everything else. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mariana, Mtoto News, and all the speakers together with the guests for joining us on this day. I'm Winifrida, as introduced here, and so I'd like to start my presentation as fast as I can to save up time. So if I could have the slides, please. Thank you so much. So as you can see, the headline is Status of the Missing Children in Africa in Tanzania. Next slide, please. So about Missing Child Tanzania, so this is an organization that exists to be reactive and to create awareness, as how Mariana introduced it. So we believe the fact that children go missing each day here in Tanzania is actually a real and a present danger. And that's why we had to come up or to exist in order to make sure that children are safe and protected. We also have our own hashtag. It's called Kapotea. And we usually use a slogan that says Mlinde Asipotee, means protect children from going missing. Just to wrap that up, can I have the next slide, please? So as an organization, our vision is to make Tanzania a safer place for all our children. And the mission is to assist families, authorities, both local and national authorities, with necessary tools in tracing and reacting on the cases in case they are reported. Next slide. So our focus as an organization is based on child trafficking and child labor, both internal and external. As you can see here, we have issues with internal child trafficking, but the issue here is people don't really know or understand that if you move a child from one region to the other just to go work is actually an issue. This is done very normal here. It's been done on a daily basis. Children are moved from one region to the other to become domestic servants. But then we have the issue of international child trafficking, which is also an issue here. But then we also have abduction from both families, family abduction and strange abduction, which is something we are also dealing with. It's really sad to know that, to find out that people are not really aware that if you take a child without a co-parent permission is actually a crime, but people think it's just a natural thing or it's a normal thing. So you'd find a child is being moved from one family member to the other family member unauthorized, but they just say they just moved from mama mdogos or to aunt to mama. It's just a normal thing. It happens always. We also deal with missing children, so we have categorized it in 3. So we have runaway, we have thrown away, and abandoned. If I can have the next slide, please. So this is how we collect our data and how we collect missing child cases. So we normally work with the National Child Helpline. So this is the platform that allows people to call and report missing child cases free of cost, but also we collaborate with other local organizations in data collection. At the moment, we are together with AfriWork, and in the following slide, you'll see how they're dealing with the data they gave us on the level of trafficking of children from the borders in Horohoro, Tanga region, but also social media. We research, we get tagged, and we get tagged when a missing child post is being posted. So this is another way we collect data and missing child cases. If you could have the next slide. So these are our challenges as an organization. One of them is the confusion about the types and forms of missing children cases. So the issue here is people usually relay or delay in calling and collecting data for, people usually don't call in case a child is missing. So we really don't have enough data unless otherwise we use the one that we have collected in years. Since we started in 2021 up to today. That is it's very little. We believe that children are missing every single day, but the data we have, all the cases that are being reported, are not sufficient enough. Another issue, we have the report mechanism. We usually lack a formal of a victim identification and protection mechanism from the government level up to an organization level at the moment. So we don't really have a system. We are currently using Excel sheets to collect our data and to note how many children have been found, how many children have still missing. So that's how we store our data. So we really don't have a proper report mechanism or system that help us to collect data. So that is one of our challenges. But then we have another, which is the perception of both the government and the people itself, the citizens. So there's an issue of treating all missing cases as the same. So we have the runaway will be the same as trafficked, will be the same as abduction, will be the same as lost. So it's just a big confusion. So this is another challenge we face. And I remember I had conversation with the Forensic Bureau and police sometime back in last year, and they say that usually they'll just tell a parent to go back and wait. The child would just come back, but if they don't come back then after 24 hours, then they should come back to the police station and just report that the child is still missing, which, as we know, as child protection and missing child experts, we understand that there is a real danger when a child goes missing more than 2 hours. But here in Tanzania, they'll be told that go back, wait for 24 hours. And remember, even Martha said about the same thing. So it's still an issue. Another one, we have number 4, which is security. We have lack of proper knowledge on how to keep children safe. Some of our children don't have the proper tools to keep them safe in case they go missing on their own, or as Martha said, there's an issue of children not knowing what to do. They don't know the names of their street, the name of the parents, just normal tools that will keep a child safe. We also don't have safe houses. From the government level to organization level, government is still depending on NGOs to provide for safe houses. And some of the safe houses don't really like to host foreigners. In case a child who has been missing or trafficked child is a foreigner, they usually don't, host. So that's also another issue. Another is the penalization of victims and compromising their safety. Our laws are not really protecting the victim. Example, the victims of child trafficking. They usually are not given a chance to go in private questioning. So in most cases, they're actually forced to face their perpetrators. So that is another challenge. So it's something that we're still working on it as an organization and as a country. Next slide, please. So here we have the data. The first data is the child helpline data. So as we can see here, we have a greater number of trafficking and labor because most of the children who are trafficked are actually going to for child labor. So the data here are not so different. And these are just the few cases we have received from January 2020 to January 2022. So this is the issue here from 2021 to 2022. These are the cases we have received. But also, if you look at the next data here, we have AfriWag report. This is an organization that deals with child trafficking, especially in Tanga. So as you can see, we have a great number of children who have gone missing during the holidays, which is December. This is also an issue here in Tanzania because that is the time where children are actually done with school. So most of them are being moved from one area to the other area because that's the time where the holiday kicks in and people are really in need of, house girls and house boys or house workers, domestic workers. So this is also an issue here. If I could have the next slide, please. So as you can see, so this is our way forward. So we had the challenges and now we have the way forward. So we are actually looking for law reviews and amendment, especially the trafficking and the trafficking law, trafficking person law of 2008 is which, as I said, there allows it allows these victims to witness in front of their perpetrators, but also the prosecution system here is still lagging behind. It still needs a change because recently, which is last year, there were trafficking cases that were reported, but the issue is here that people are being given a choice either to pay fine or to be imprisoned with a term which is not more than 10 years. But if a child is being trafficked, we also understand that there are so many things that can be fallen on this child. A child can be trafficked, trafficking, there can be sexually, physical abuse and emotional abuse. But then if we sentence this person to 3 years in jail, and while a person who raped is has received an imprisonment of 30 years, I don't see if there's equality here. So that's one thing we are pushing for law reviews to be harsher and more serious on trafficking issues, but also we are trying to digitalize our efforts. So we are, at the moment as an organization, we are working on different prototypes that will allow us to have an application that will allow children to be safe. We're looking for an application that will allow children to be tracked because some of the data here show that most of the children who are going missing usually are missing from and to school. So we are looking for a way to launch an application that will track children when they're going from home to school, school from home. So that is something we're doing, but also to have a more secure data collection method compared to the one we have right now, which is Excel. Also, we are looking on training to have more trainings on how to handle cases of missing child. So we'll be working with different law practitioners, local and national authorities in how to do this. but also to raise public awareness on child safety. From having different workshops and working with families, that's how we're doing now, since we are providing information and we're raising awareness through our social media, but we're looking to go even further into the public and teach them on how to keep children safe. And as we can read here, we were saying that as an organization, so unfortunately, the government of Tanzania does not fully meet the minimum standards for the elimination of trafficking and solving missing child cases as required. So this is the motivation enough for us to fill in the gaps and keep children safe from going missing. So thank you so much. Let's keep this fight together, and we are together in keeping children safe. So as you can see, these are our social media handles. You can follow us for more information. Thank you so much. That is the end of our presentation. For any question inquiries, please use the Q&A section and I'll be more than happy to answer your queries. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Winifrida. Amazing work happening within Tanzania. We still are having a Pan-African outlook, looking at agencies and initiatives across Africa that are dealing with issues of missing children. So this is like a tour of Africa. So we're done with Tanzania. We want to go a little bit down to South Africa and meet Bianca from Missing Children South Africa. I will introduce her briefly with her bio. I'm sorry if I mispronounce your second name. You will correct me as you're making the presentation. Bianca van Aswen is a qualified criminologist and national coordinator for the organization Missing Children South Africa. She was born and raised in Johannesburg in South Africa and moved to the beautiful Cape Town in 2002. She started studying in the amazing winelands town of Stellenbosch at the University of Stellenbosch. But life is not always the way you plan it to be. She always had an interest in solving crime and later in life then went on to study criminology that brought her on the path of Missing Children South Africa. Bianca is married to a wonderful husband who himself is in the correctional services. So being in his industry, they understand each other's professions, and this makes them each other's support system. She has an amazing family who is just as supportive and understanding in the drive she has for her passion. She started with Missing Children in 2015, and it is not just a job, but pure passion to help those who find themselves in situations of having missing loved ones. Working in the industry has exposed her to many aspects of different types of crimes, such as human trafficking, organized crime, serial killers, and many more. This has made her more passionate about what she does and the difference she can make in the sector, in South Africa, in Africa, and globally. She has been involved in international research projects on human trafficking and had many privileges to be key speaker at many conferences on the topic of missing children or people and that of human trafficking. She's well known in the industry in South Africa and also broadening her knowledge to that of the world. Knowing the massive problem the world is facing with children going missing and the massive increase in human trafficking, this motivates Bianca even more every day to know that she has been put in this position to make a difference. Bianca's quote is, "When I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I am afraid." Welcome, Bianca.
Thank you so much, Mariana. Okay, so welcome everybody and thank you so much. What a privilege it is to speak to everybody today. As you can see, just another quick introduction. I'm Bianca van Aswegen. I'm a criminologist and the national coordinator for the organization Missing Children South Africa. Next slide, please. So today we've got International Missing Children's Day, and this is something that we as an organization take very seriously and create as much awareness on this day as possible, especially with our cold cases, as we've got many cold cases that are still unsolved here in South Africa. So International Missing Children's Day is very important to us to create the awareness, to put out the educational part of how to keep our children safe. And it's very important for us to make sure that everybody knows about every single missing child in South Africa and they are not forgotten. Next slide, please. So Missing Children South Africa is a registered NPO. We started in 2007 when we saw the need from the public when 2 little girls went missing. And unfortunately, both of them were found deceased, but that's when it was realized that there's assistance needed when a child or a person goes missing in South Africa, where the public was uneducated in how to open a missing persons case, what the steps is to follow, and to create the awareness around the person or the child that is missing. So we work throughout South Africa, the whole of South Africa. We assist with all missing persons cases, not just children, but also with adults. We also stand in the fight against human trafficking, gender-based violence, and also all missing persons cases. Human trafficking has really become a problem, as well as gender-based violence in South Africa. Next slide, please. So children go missing in South Africa for various reasons. We've got cases such as children that run away from home. Unfortunately, this is not just due to a child being naughty, as most people think, but we've seen an increase in child violence, abusive parents at home, domestic violence that's happening, why children are actually running away from home. And this has increased due to COVID, especially when we were in lockdown, that we saw the increase in child neglect and violence towards our children in South Africa. Then we also deal with cases of kidnappings, also due to various reasons, such as parental abductions, opportunistic kidnappings. We've got ransom demand kidnappings, and then we've also got human trafficking. So we've also got our mentally challenged children that often wander off and get lost. And we do encourage people to put a bracelet around their arm with their condition and also that of an emergency number. Then we've also got many children that actually just go missing for reasons unknown, that is possible that they could be human trafficking victims because they have not been found yet. Some of our cold cases date back to 1988 that we are still assisting with. We make sure that that gets out into the public, into the media, and it still gets the attention that is needed, because every single missing persons case to us is important. And in 2013, it was put out by the Missing Persons Bureau of South Africa that one child goes missing every 5 hours. Unfortunately, the stats is unavailable. There has not been any new stats put out by our South African police services to indicate what the numbers are today. But we do see an increase in cases yearly within our organization. And currently we are actually assisting between 60 and 90 cases a month, and some months even more. So that is quite a high number of children and people going missing in South Africa. But we don't work off stats, because there's a lot of reasons why the extent of the situation is not actually truly related to the stats that is put out. There are people in rural areas that are unable to open missing persons cases. We've seen illegal immigrants that are unable to open a missing persons case for being too scared. And then we've also realized during COVID that there are parents that have been selling off their children, and those children don't get reported as missing. Next slide, please. As I mentioned earlier, we see an increase in cases. Previous one, please. There we go. So we do see an increase in cases yearly of children going missing. And that is one of the major problems in South Africa, is that the numbers are not going down, they're going up daily. So stricter laws and regulations needs to be brought into our justice system in South Africa, not just in South Africa, but worldwide. Everybody that is speaking here today and explaining the situations in their countries of children that go missing, those children can be anywhere in the world if they are possible trafficking victims or parental abduction victims, or for whatever reason so be. So stricter laws need to be implemented worldwide when it comes to children that are missing. And we as an organization believe the collaboration between all the countries and also worldwide needs to widen, so we can get the faces of those missing out into the world, not just into our own countries, but that could just possibly end up solving a missing persons case without even knowing it. Next slide, please. There are quite a few problems that we are facing in South Africa regarding our missing persons and children. We are not getting the proper support from our government and the authorities that are needed. We also work very closely with our South African police services, but once again, we sit with matters where they do not open cases, they tell the family to wait 24 hours, and that does not exist. There's no waiting period at all opening a case in South Africa for a missing person. It needs to be opened immediately so that action can be taken. Unfortunately, something that we as an organization is struggling with also is funding. In South Africa, we've actually found that the topic of a child going missing is something people do not want to hear about. Neither is the word human trafficking. So they see us as an organization that is not cute enough. It's not, it's an off the subject topic that people don't want to know. They don't want to realize about, they don't want to hear about, because they think they are oblivious to the fact that it can happen to them. So funding is one of our major issues to keep our organization's doors open, as our services are rendered for free to the public. COVID-19 has a severe impact in missing persons in South Africa. We've seen an increase in children being abused. We've seen an increase in families actually selling off their own children because of poverty, and job losses has increased the human trafficking aspect in South Africa. False job advertisements, scams that have been going on, extortion cases, kidnappings for ransom. So we've drastically seen an increase in these types of crime and crime in general in South Africa. And in the past few days, the media has actually been on this, trying to get the voices heard out there, as we've actually now currently dealing with a kidnapping case in Cape Town of a young woman that still unfortunately has not been found. So the topic of kidnapping and human trafficking has really hit the media of late. Next slide, please. Unfortunately, South Africa has been declared as a human trafficking hub by the US Department of State in the last few months. And this is very concerning for our country, as we are seen as a transit country, export country, and also trafficking victims being used in our own country and imported from other countries. So human trafficking, forced labor, sexual exploitation, we've seen an increase in organ trafficking and illegal adoptions. And this is very concerning. Some of the main hubs in South Africa regarding human trafficking is Cape Town, Bloemfontein, Durban, and Gauteng. And these areas are very high in the number of human trafficking cases getting reported. We've also seen a definite increase where people have been online, where they've been lured and scammed and also fallen victim to human trafficking. During lockdown, children were more on social media, where they were lured and groomed. People have fallen into poverty due to job losses. So they're grasping to every advertisement of a job on social media and online, and they're falling victim to human trafficking. And this has become a real problem for people in South Africa with COVID-19 that's really brought us to rock bottom. Next slide, please. We as an organization believe that collaboration between all the countries is very important when it comes to missing persons and trafficking victims. Getting the faces out there into the world, I mean, it's going to make such a big difference, because as a human trafficking victim, as we all know, could be in any country, anywhere. So if we can collaborate, all our organizations, all the authorities, and put something together so we can get the faces out there worldwide of a possible trafficking victim or kidnapping victim, or a child that has been taken for parental abduction, then we actually making a difference in the world, not just in our own countries, but they could be anywhere. And we need to start collaborating so we can get that done and make sure that every single missing persons case or human trafficking case gets the same attention as, I mean, as we all know, some cases get more media attention than others. If it's a high profile case, even cases in other countries get shown in South Africa when a child goes missing, and the publicity is all over there. But every single victim or missing person needs to get the same media attention worldwide regarding their situation. Next slide, please. This is our organization, and we believe in your support can make all the difference for a heartbroken family. Give today and have a happy ending, a happy story, a child found and reunited with their family. And that is what we stand for, is to mend a heartbroken family and to reunite a family with their missing loved one. So Missing Children South Africa is there to assist with all missing persons cases, human trafficking cases, gender-based violence cases, and we're trying to make South Africa a safer place for our women, our children, and our men, as it's not just women and children that are vulnerable to fall victim to human trafficking, but men are just as vulnerable. And we want to see that we can collaborate with everybody, stand together, make our voices heard, and not just make South Africa a safer place, but the world a safer place for our children, because our children are our future. Without them, the world has no future. Next, please. So this is what our flyer looks like when we put one out in South Africa. When we get a case that gets reported to us, we've got a 24-hour emergency line that we run where anybody can report a case to us. So we create a flyer with all the necessary detail. We put our emergency number on there, that of the police station where it has been reported to, and we distribute that on all our social media pages. We're in direct contact with the investigating officer of the case. We make sure that all protocol is properly followed, all communication lines are open between us, the police, and the family, and that everything is being done to find that person or the child that has gone missing. On our website, we've got some wonderful safety tips for parents, for children. We've got an interim ID kit, what is a form that you can download and fill in with all the necessary details of your child for safekeeping. So should you find yourself in a situation where you need to open a missing persons case, you've got all the necessary information already on hand. On our website, there's also a link to report a person as missing, and then you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and we've also got all the means of how to support our organization and help us to make a difference, not just in South Africa, but worldwide. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that we had the opportunity to present Missing Children South Africa today. And we really hope that what we did today, and that everybody would stand together and make our voices heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Bianca from South Africa, and the amazing work that is being done under Missing Children South Africa. Like I said, today's webinar is an introduction of agencies and initiatives, a showcase of the amazing work and commendable steps that all the panelists are doing in their different sectors, in their different countries, with regard to missing children. Next, we have Rosalia from Namibia. We're not too far from Bianca. I will read her biography. Rosalia Ndambelela Hipondoka is a media arts and technology graduate, second-year legal studies student, and is a pro-choice, non-binary gender and reproductive justice activist with experience in mobilizing and training women and adolescent girls on reproductive rights. She founded the Missing Persons Unit Namibia, MPU, in May 2020, an organization assisting families in amplifying the search for their missing loved ones. The unit has so far, with the consent of family members, helped to advocate the safe return of more than 5 people to their families. I quote her, "I felt the necessity to introduce the unit as I noticed the number of missing individuals increasing every day." As we welcome Rosalia and her presentation is being set up, I'd just like to encourage the members. I have sent the link of the webinar proceedings on YouTube. You can follow that and share with your networks as well. Welcome, Rosalia.
Thank you so much for having me, Mariana. Should I go first with my presentation?
Yes, you may.
Okay, as introduced, my name is Rosalia Hipondoka. I founded the Missing Persons Unit Namibia. We advocate for missing individuals in and around the Namibian community. By that, I mean we also advocate missing individuals from other countries. Like our neighboring country, we receive cases from South Africa, we receive cases from Uganda, and as far as Italy. MPU was established in 2020 under the hashtag Shut It All Down, a wave of anti-sexual and gender-based violence protests across Namibia aimed at stopping the spread and continuation of physical and sexual violence against children and women. This unit also came into existence during the disappearance of then 22-year-old Shannon Danki Wasserfeld, whose remains were reportedly found buried in a shallow grave in Walvisvik, coastal town here in Namibia. All right, okay, next slide. Okay, it's fine, the statistics. In recent months, Namibia has faced a growing missing person crisis, and since the lockdown was imposed in mid-March 2020, the disappearance of children has risen considerably. With our unit, we advocated for about 200 young girls and boys, with a total post of 6 missing individuals every day on our social media platform, Twitter at Unit Missing, and on Instagram at Missing Persons Unit Namibia. According to us and according to our findings, one of the contributing factors on kids going missing in Namibia is the high level of gender-based violence and crimes such as rape. In Namibia, gender-based violence has become a concern in our country. How can I put it into terms? It's like it has been normalized. People really don't like to speak about it because they seem like you are exposing either a family relative or things like that. But when it comes to our unit, we receive these cases whereby young girls would send us SMSs saying they left home due to the fact that the father is abusive. Yes, human trafficking. Just stay there, please, Mariana. Due to the fact that their fathers are abusive or their parents are selling them off for prostitution and stuff like that. Now, the thing is, our unit, we are not really in partnership with the police station due to confidentiality. People really don't like to go out. They don't like us posting their content or the information of the missing individuals while notifying the police. They first confide in us and we make them comfortable. That's how we link them to the police to fully open a case. And then from there on, the police take it to the further step. All right, human trafficking. In Namibia, human trafficking is also one of the contributing factors as to why young children, women, and young girls go missing. Children and women are a subject of human trafficking for conditions of forced labor and prostitution, like I mentioned earlier. Reports have indicated that vulnerable Namibian children are recruited for forced labor, like I mentioned, and prostitution in Angola, South Africa, by traffickers. And how these young girls are trafficked is through truck drivers. A recent report by our local newspaper, The New Era, it has been suspected that 28 Namibians have been trafficked to Uppington in South Africa. Till today, we actually don't have any information as to where they are, as our system has been failing us in terms of constantly notifying us about missing persons cases. There was a program on our television shows called Open File, whereby they could constantly post about missing people, but then this program also stopped, which is also limiting us to know or share information when we hear or see about it with others about the statistics of missing individuals. Currently, with our unit, the missing persons unit, next slide please. Yes, we have a current crucial case, and it is of a now 5-year-old baby boy called Spencer Mandela Nakale. He went missing on the 27th of December 2021, yes, while in the care of his auntie. It has been over a year and months since Spencer has been missing, and his parents are till now are very worried. The thing is, with this case, we really don't know what's going on because the police is not informing the nation on the procedures or steps they are taking to advocate or look for this child. Baby Spencer's case is practically being dealt by us. And me, I founded Missing Persons Unit alongside my schoolmates. We are students who founded this organization. We felt the necessity to do so because a lot of unsolved cases have been coming to us. I personally started advocating for missing individuals on my Facebook account, and it reached out into my family members, encouraging me to open up a unit so that they can also just deal with other cases that are not being concentrated on. Okay, in the case of Spencer Mandela, we from Missing Persons Unit, we've been in communication with both the parents as well as the constable that is handling the case. And from our unit, we have been pressurizing. We have been pressurizing the constable having the case to constantly go out there because the kid went missing in a coastal town, Luderitz. He went missing there. And mind you, when Spencer went missing, he went to his aunt's place for a sleepover, meaning he was amongst the community. And someone must have seen him, but till today, no one wants to talk. It's like a taboo if you talk about the child that went missing who was in the care of a family member, because then they think you are trying to tarnish the family name and stuff like that. Till today, the aunt is not in communication with baby Spencer's mom, nor is she in communication with the father. We took this case to the police several times so that they can pull out that file and reinvestigate this. And on our social media platforms, we also posted press statements of the parents, Spencer's mom, the dad, and as well as the aunt that was last in care of the child. And there are so many proof that something had happened to this kid, but no one is doing anything about it. So far, with our unit, we have reunited 240 missing individuals just by advocating on social media and constantly reposting these individuals' pictures on our social media. And we've reported 4 deaths, unfortunately, including the late Shenendali Kivaserpal. May his soul rest in peace. Shut it all down, Namibia. As we celebrate Africa Missing Child's Day, 48,000 people in Africa are confirmed to be missing across our continent. The International Committee of Red Cross say at least 21,600 of these missing individuals are minors. Yes. Most of these disappearances are widely believed to be documented with humanitarian link to armed robbery, violence, disaster, and immigration across the continent. I'm very much grateful that I was given this opportunity to just share the statistics. The last slide, please. Yes, just to share the statistics and how our organization is working here in Namibia. I plead that all organizations in Africa that are advocating for missing individuals, let us unite, because there's a huge call of concern when it comes to human trafficking. It's not a joke. And the thing is, kids, these young kids are being trafficked within our countries. And it's either the police systems in our countries are failing us, or there's just some sort of non-support when it comes to missing individuals. But since we have these platforms to advocate, let's not stop. Missing Persons Unit advocates for individuals not only in Namibia. We can do collaborations whereby we share posts. I upload these posts on our page. You upload the post of a missing individual on your page so that we can just create awareness and spread this news. Having units that advocate for or support or stand for missing individuals is a beautiful thing to see in Africa. Yes, we lack resources. Yes, we lack support, but standing together and just being like a united continent when it comes to missing individuals will be highly recommended, and I recommend it. Let us collaborate, let us share content together, and that's it from my side. You can follow us on our social media platforms, Missing Persons Unit Namibia on Instagram and Unit Missing on Twitter. Thank you, Mariana.
Thank you very much, Rosalia. I am impressed, first of all, by your age and call to action for human rights concerns. And we continue to state that today we are showcasing such initiatives across Africa with a call of looking at ways we can continue to collaborate. Thank you. Next, we are going to Ghana, where we shall meet Madame Regina Asamoah. I am just going to read her bio briefly. So Regina is a trained journalist, a multi-award-winning journalist, a gender activist and documentary filmmaker who for the past 13 years has made the art of storytelling a lifestyle rather than a job. She's the head of news and current affairs at Atinka Media Village, comprising of Atinka 104.7 FM, Atinka TV, and atinkaonline.com. As an editorial team leader, she plays a big part in determining content for news, besides driving her team for top quality reportage and ethical discipline. One of her interests has been to champion women and children's rights through her works. She has written theses and done publications on these areas, which have sparked public discourse in both traditional and new media. Through her reports, several defiled girls have received justice, with some being put back to school on sponsorship. Her award-winning documentaries have generated national discussion and yielded positive results over the years. Her latest documentary, titled Missing Children, which premiered in May 2021, has helped to reunite over 100 missing children with their families. At the 2022 Ghana Young Achievers Awards, she received the topmost award, Young Achiever and Activist of the Year, for her Missing Children documentary. Her documentary, Defiled and Traumatized, received special recognition from Plan International Ghana for excellent reporting on girls' issues. After 6 years of legal battle, the girl who was featured in the documentary, a defilement victim, finally got justice in August 2021. Another documentary by Regina on the aged and COVID-19 led to proper targeting and care for older persons at the height of COVID-19 pandemic in Ghana. She has facilitated and moderated several high-level discussions looking at dialogue on sexual violence, assault against boys and girls, and is implementing partners. She holds a master's degree in development communication from Ghana Institute of Journalism, having finished top of her class, and she's a Bloomberg Media Initiative Africa Fellow with a degree in journalism. Regina draws strength from one of Nelson Mandela's quotes: "We can change the world and make it a better place. It is in your hands to make a difference." Welcome, Regina.
Hello. All right. Thank you very much for the introduction. And I must say that taking the baton from our distinguished personalities that are doing so much when it comes to issues of missing children is overwhelming. And I'll quickly go to my presentation. Let me welcome all of you, our attendees, and then our panelists to Ghana, a very beautiful country where we prioritize issues of children. And although there are gaps, we will discuss here and then hoping to forge ahead in helping bring back our children who are missing. So my presentation is going to take this form. There's going to be an introduction. We'll look at the issue of missing children in Ghana. Then I move into the missing children documentaries I started. We'll look at the impact we've made so far, and then talk about some of the gaps we identified with my team. And then we'll look at the way forward. So we can start. The next slide, please. So when it comes to the issue of missing children, you would all agree with me that previous panelists have talked about actually knowing who falls into a particular category of missing children. Because for some, missing children are children who we can't actually find. But then in Ghana here, we have two categories of missing children. We are looking at children who went missing, but have been found, we can still trace their families. They are also termed as missing children. And children who are missing are still not found. They are also missing children. And so these children, we already know, sometimes move long distances before they realize they are missing, especially children who wander away. It takes a longer time for us to really know they are missing, because some of those children are actually moved or attracted by things as they keep walking or they keep straying away. And so they all form part of the missing children. And then we know that children, until they feel lonely when they get missing, they really don't even accept the fact that they are missing. Until they are in need of something, they start looking for an immediate relative. And then when they don't find, then they realize they're actually missing. That is why we say that every minute counts when a child gets missing. And you would bear with me that in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, Article 39 states that every child has the right to recovery and reintegration. And this goes to buttress the point that we have work to do to help these missing children enjoy their right to recovery and to reintegration. Next slide, please. And so let's look at missing children in Ghana. When you come to missing children issue in Ghana, we have come to realize, myself and my team, we've realized that when you come to Ghana, we have a lot of cases of missing children, especially in the urban cities. Two main regions outside to be the central region of Ghana and the Greater Accra region of Ghana. We have a lot of cases. It's a daily affair. Every day a child gets missing. And in Greater Accra, we have reports to show that every day it has been recorded that children get missing. Observations have also shown that some of those children actually leave home. And even when we find these children and you want to trace and take them back home, they will not want to go because of an abuse they are suffering in the home. When a child gets missing and also a good Samaritan finds this child in Ghana, what you have to do is to take this child to the police station. And then the police will take record of the details you provide as at the time you found this child, and then refer to the Department of Social Welfare, or an office we call Social Welfare and Community Development Office, which more often than not are located within the municipalities or the metropolitan assemblies. Then they take this child there. What happens then is that the child is taken to a residential home for children or an orphanage. In Ghana, we can confidently say we have only about 5 homes that are government owned. All the other homes, which is almost 134, are owned by private individuals. And so they are private homes. So the department or the social welfare office fall on these homes and keep the children there. Now, this is what happened. When they do that, they start the contact tracing. It depends on the information the child is able to give to the social workers. They are able to reintegrate those children early or it's forever. And it was based on this that I started doing my investigation into the issue of missing children. Next slide, please. The issue of missing children, I started an investigation in Ghana here, looking at children who are missing in a particular municipality called Ashiaman in the Greater Accra region. And that is how it became the missing children, and it's everywhere now. I got to realize and then found that 30 children who are reported missing that were actually found by Good Samaritans and brought to the social welfare department in Ashaman were kept in these orphanages, and some of these children have been there for more than 10 years. The highest was 15 years, 16 years, and the children were still there with no trace of finding their parents. And the office, social welfare office, those who are mandated to take care of those children, some of them have been transferred. And so some of the officers who actually took the children to the orphanages were no longer at post. And so I started the Missing Children documentary to show the faces of those children. And then when we showed the faces of those children in our first documentary, which we premiered on 22nd May 2021 on Atinka TV in Ghana, the outcome was overwhelming and very explosive because we had a lot of families coming forward. These were children the families were looking for. They did for their children. So then it gives us of these keeping missing children, and the families are thinking dead or they are missing. So one of the biggest and able to find children who were there. Similarly, at the Shelter for Abused Children, it's also owned by government. Together, we featured children close to 45, let me say over 45, from these government homes. And we did that on 18 by 2021. That was what we call March 7. And from our homes in the central region, we had over 45 missing children. That's currently, we are still helping to reintegrate these children. That is what we're doing with the Missing Children documentaries. Next slide, please. So in all this, we realized that we've been able to reintegrate a lot of children from the homes. Then we realized we became a point of reference for almost all families that have children that are missing. So they came to us, telling us about their ordeal and the fact that their children are missing. So what we request when you bring such a report to us is first to bring a copy of a police extract confirming that your child is missing. And then you should be able to bring a picture of your child. Then we can put this together and show on our program, Missing Children on Atinka TV. Then we are able to help. We also use the social media handles. That's Atinka TV Ghana. We use Facebook and my page as well, Regina Someone, to be able to coordinate all this. And then we try to find the children. We also have a number that we use. It is, I won't say it's a 24-hour service number. It's a number that we do our best as a team to be able to pick all the calls as we can. At almost every time you call, we pick and then we listen to, try to connect and then help. As we do this, we realize that together, as I speak in May 2022, since we started in May 2021, we have reunited over 160 children, 160 children in Ghana. Some of these children are from our neighboring countries, as in Togo, that they came to Ghana, or would I say some of them were trafficked into Ghana, but we're able to find their families and then we're taking them back through our documentaries. And that is something we have done. I can say that we have 340 cases that have been reported by families that are missing, children that have been missing, 340 cases. Out of this, 81 of them are part of our reunification stories that we have been able to do. So we are using the documentary to also educate the Ghanaian populace about what it takes to actually locate your child. Immediately the child gets missing. I was listening to our other distinguished personalities, speakers talking about this 24-hour period. Some would wait till the 24-hour period, but some would rush. So we tell them immediately your child gets missing, every second counts, just be on the move. You report to the police, although they will not issue the police extract for you immediately, at least you have reported and the search begins. Now, once we do all this, these are the gaps we identified. We realize that it takes long for us to find children. And those periods are very traumatic for the families. So how can we do this? What we can do is to build more partnership with the police. Then we realize that even with the police service, there is no, I would say, for me, I would say there's no coordinated approach. because a child gets missing in one community, let me say Ashaman, and the child is even found by a good Samaritan in another community, maybe let me say Sakumono, and takes the child to the police station. Surprisingly, there's no connection for the police in Ashaman to know that a child has been reported here. And so Sakumono police station will take the child to an orphanage. And if they are not able to provide the details, that ends it. That is one challenge I have found since I started the missing children in Ghana. The police, the coordination is poor. One particular child outside here, he got missing and found him 14 years after he's gone missing. I realized after listening to the family and everything, the same police station that the case was reported that the child was missing was the same police station somebody found the child and took the child to. And then the same police station, they handed over the child to an orphanage, and the boy has been in an orphanage for 14 years until I did the documentary that the family showed up and came for this child. And so that is the gap I have identified. Aside the police not coordinating to help us, we've also realized that the social welfare department or the social welfare office within the local assemblies, when they find this child and they're not able to reintegrate, sometimes the follow-ups are not quick. The follow-ups are not quick, and the children are left at the orphanages for their destiny to be determined by the orphanages, which is very, very pathetic. Until our documentary, all these 160 children we have reunited will still have been at these orphanages. Then we are waiting on state agencies to find their families. Meanwhile, they are also there and are restricted by logistics and other issues. Next slide, please. So the way forward for us, please, I think the previous slide, you skipped one. I'll be looking at the way forward. For us as a missing children team, I'm the team lead. I work with hardworking young journalists in Atinka Media Village, trying to help find missing children in Ghana. This is what we have realized that we can do to help when it comes to Ghana. We have to deepen the education on factors that make children go missing, because caring for children is not easy. The welfare of children is not easy, but it takes a second for a child to get missing. So through our documentaries and then through our platform, we've made the missing children documentaries kind of a weekly program. We keep educating parents. There are basic information you need to let your children have when they get missing. And I was glad that when I was listening to the speakers from Kenya, from Namibia, from South Africa, they are also preaching that we should be able to let our children know that in case you get missing, we don't prepare our children for such emergencies. And so when the child gets missing, the child is stuck. As parents, as guardians, as a country, even within all the African continent, every parent should have that responsibility of preparing your child for any emergency. So tell your child, my full name is this. This is where we stay. That's the location. Keep this number. This is my telephone number. So that the child will be able to give those details out and will be able to find you as soon as possible. Because when the children get missing, some are kidnapped. Yes, some actually get missing. And because we are not able to trace, they end up in the wrong hands. We are also trying through our documentaries here in Ghana to expand the knowledge on responsive measures in case a child goes missing. What do you have to do when a child goes missing? Your child goes missing. Quickly, that is what we try to do. And then to deepen advocacy on getting a system for easy tracking of missing children. And I'm glad to learn about the missing children hotline in Kenya and other countries, the 116. And we would see how best we can advance that advocacy to have that work effectively also in our country here to help us find missing children and trace missing children on time. We are also looking at getting government, especially the security agencies, to prioritize issues of missing children. There's one thing that we realize, that people are more concerned when they hear the word kidnapped. The child has been kidnapped. People are more concerned. But missing children, gradually, it's becoming an issue that people would say, okay, we'll find the child, so let's take some time to look for the child. Maybe he or she is with a relative and all that. But this time around, with my team, we are looking forward that as we continue to do the missing children documentaries, we'll get the security agencies to prioritize issues of missing children, so they just don't end up issuing police extracts to families, go to radio stations to go and do the announcements, but to rather take proactive measures to help the families find those children. That is what we are looking out for. And to be on this platform with all distinguished personalities from South Africa, from Kenya, from Namibia, from Tanzania. I'm looking forward for that partnership so that together we can be able to help. It is Africa and beyond Africa. But with this platform, we can continue to share. If a child gets missed, Anna, maybe the child has been trafficked to maybe Tanzania or to any other country. When the alert is sound, and when we flag the alert here in Ghana, I'm hoping that stakeholders or well-meaning organizations like as we have converged here will be able to see this alert, and then together we'll be able to track our children on time. One thing we continue to preach as Missing Children Ghana is that let us continue to spread the hope. When families have the hope that they will find their children, they continue the search. But when the hope is not there, they stop, and then it becomes difficult. We will continue to spread the hope for children who are missing. We are trying to find their parents. We keep telling them, let's keep trusting God, let's keep working, and then we'll find your parents. In conclusion, I would want to share with you a brief video of our reunification process that we have done, what we do. So you can have a look at how the children are happy going home and how the families are receiving them, if the video can be played.
Osha powder ejari mi a eyebusiafo no omanije yaba be pemu ewo community 1 you say had 5,000 Emmanuel ubefie no tenafie nanyi menyira biom.
We are going to dance today. We are going to dance. This is our church. Today, in the room, we are going to dance because Mark, he lacked dance. God have done well. You too, we thank you.
See the idea emofana babedu jope nyini ono no oyira 4 years ni oyira January 2017. Priscilla so yira no idea 2019.
Madam.
Ow, Sister Jana. Mahumi bow 6 years, 7 years, and ye is a end for Kura.
So this is a brief video of our reunification process that we have done, and we have done for 160 missing children in Ghana, and we are still counting. We still are in touch with the families, and they are still connecting with us. So we share with you our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Let's continue to help us spread the word, then spread hope for our children. Facebook, LinkedIn, let's get interactive. so that together we will be able to help our children. It's a collective effort. Let's all put our hands together. Let us join our hands together as stakeholders in the various countries. Let's form this partnership so that together we will help children enjoy their right to recovery and reintegration, as stated in the UN Convention of the Rights of the Child. Thank you very much for the opportunity to do this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Regina. And the video ending your presentation has just lifted my spirit when I see the happiness in the families' faces and their joy in their voice, the hugs, the tears as they are reunited with families. It reinforces to everyone in this webinar that what we are trying to do collectively is very important to the central well-being of the family. And so as we have come on that Pan-African view, as the host of the webinar, I didn't see it rightful to talk about what we do at the beginning. So I will wrap up with a little bit about Missing Child Kenya as well, and move on to our next speaker, who is Mr. Damon, to give us a regional overview. So I'll share my brief presentation as well. Remember, this webinar link is also available on YouTube. I have sent the link in the chat box, and it can be shared to your networks after this webinar. Thank you. So, Missing Child Kenya. I'll just move to the next slide. Like I introduced our organization at the start, we are dealing with search, trace, and reunification. And when we look at why we are doing this is data on missing children. Over 1 million children are reported missing annually, and ICMEC confirms that it's very difficult to get accurate missing children numbers from many countries, including Kenya, and what all other peers have shared in their presentation. I like the gentleman in the photo there, Mr. Edward Denning, and he says, "In God we trust, all others must bring data." This is because data informs processes, data informs policy, data informs all that we are doing as initiatives. And so it is important to gather the data that is necessary to impact change for missing children. Next slide, please. What we do at Missing Child Kenya is centered around 3 units: prevention, casework, and aftercare. For prevention, we share safety educational contents for the family and the community. On casework, we receive, document, and distribute alerts. Like I mentioned, we have our toll-free line. And on aftercare, we try to create support platforms for affected families and provide linkages to psychosocial support service providers. Next slide, please. Missing Child Kenya, a typical day at Missing Child Kenya on our toll-free line, we look at providing administrative support, emotional support, legal support, assistance in contacting authorities, family support, referrals, trainings, and prevention and information campaigns. So our helpline receives calls for service from families and law enforcement agencies that are reporting a missing child and seeking assistance in their search. We also receive calls from people reporting the sighting of a missing child, and professionals that are seeking resources to assist in missing child cases, and families that need reunification assistance once their child is found. And just like Winifreda mentioned, during school holidays, we have seen a rise in numbers. So those are some of the things that we need to look at in terms of what to do. Data is very important in terms of the information that we collect, and it's just a sample of what our standard intake sheet is. And there's a difference between the first one and the second one, because once a child has been found, we are also looking at data protection laws and their right to privacy. And so we may not share so much about the circumstances because there's so much going on the back end. Next slide. Next slide. Community education on the importance of a police report is important. All my peers before have mentioned that under-reporting or late reporting or no reporting at all at the police stations is one of the reasons why we don't have accurate data and immediate case management action when it comes to missing children cases. So the role of law enforcement, police, in cases of missing children is important because they have the mandate to investigate. And so we work with the police and public in education and awareness for this. So for each case we take in, we ensure that the case has a police report evidenced by what in Kenya is called an OB, occurrence book number, before we publish it on our platforms. Next slide. Data collection process, like I said, parental consent is also mandatory for each case that we process because we are looking at data protection and best interest of the child. And so while our data collection model depends on crowdsourcing through social media tags, we, however, also contact the family first, verify the status, collect the data as per our intake form, and then publish the alert. We make reference to the Data Protection Act number 24 of 2019 of Kenya. Once a child is found, they resume their right to privacy. So we do not share to the public the intimate case details relating to the child being found. Next slide, please. Again, media has been a great partner in terms of sharing alerts of missing children. And I'm very humbled when I see Regina's work in Ghana, all the reunification processes that she's going through. And so some of the things that also guide us here is editorial guidelines for Kenyan journalists when it comes to data protection and best interests of the child. This is a memo released by the Media Council of Kenya in 2021 as a call to adherence to the Journalism Code of Conduct. Sometimes unscrupulous people take the stories and make them sensational, infringing on the rights of those children. So it's important to follow editorial guidelines for journalists reporting cases of missing children. Next slide. What we have seen grow our community of assistance is projects and partnerships in terms of looking at different ways that the community can participate in this. Like I said, we are a community-led organization, and so we look at how can we get into the community to partner with them. Two things that we did, we identified sports as a key connector of people, and during our Kenyan Premier League, we did a collaboration where the football players, like Sean, walked onto the pitch with lots of missing children, and some of them were reunited with family. This partnership also extended to AS Roma. We were the first African charity to partner with them on the missing children social campaign. 2 Kenyan children out of the 17 children posters shared have been found and reunited with families. Next slide. Local educational content on child safety is very important, and local, I will make it local to your context regionally as a nation. Even within your nation, there's different regions that need contextualization when it comes to content on child safety. When I started out Missing Child Kenya, I realized that there's very little or no local content on safety for children. And so my motivation behind writing this children's book, High Five, was to use storytelling and creativity to teach children about their own safety. And it's the first of the safety stories series, and we are looking at how to also grow this into animation, looking at expanding this into Swahili language, looking at the Eastern African region, where also such content can be applied across board. Next slide. Technology is a very good assistant in terms of reuniting children with their family. Forensic imaging is very important. We have partnered with Italian Missing Children Institute, and they provide support for forensic imaging and facial reconstruction so that we get approximations of how children who are missing over 2 years back will be looking like. More details are provided in the poster, and if you go to our website, you'll see more details about this. But this is a photo of a child who went missing in the year 2016, and that was her age progression at year 2020 at approximately 7 years old. Next slide, please. Like what my contemporaries have shared in terms of challenges, I also look at them challenges, areas of concern. Child trafficking, the 2019 global report, Trafficking in Persons, release gives indicators for each country by the US Department of State. And so we are also Tier 2 source by 2019, a transit point and destination for people subjected to sex trafficking and forced labor. And the counter-trafficking data collaborative shows that 1 in every 6 victims trafficked is a child. So child trafficking is real. Orphanage trafficking is also something that is of concern. Lumos reported in part of its initial reports that there are many children living in orphanages despite the fact that these children are not orphans. And so the TIP report in 2017 recognized that our orphanages are a destination point for trafficked children. Differently able children are facing a lot of challenges, especially an example of children on the autism spectrum who are not verbal, and so they wander out from care and they may not be able to give helpful details to reunite them with family. Infertility, medical care for women facing infertility issues is expensive in Africa. The stigma of infertility is a contributing factor to the theft of children. Demeaning cultural practices like a need for a male child as an heir puts children at risk. A family without a male child is not respected in most Kenyan communities, and even other African countries may attest to this. And so these also are some of the areas of concern that contribute to our cases of missing children. Next slide. For me, having everybody today in this webinar, it's just a call to see that, as I conclude, I have seen so many similarities among all the presentations, and we are tackling the same issue in different areas. I've just listed the different ways that we communicate to our publics, and just to call on to all of us that it takes us all to come together to see how to protect our children. Thank you very much. And now I'll move the presentation next for Damon Wamara from the Eastern African Child Rights Network, collaboration of NGOs. And I will read his profile briefly as his presentation is being prepared. So here we go. Found it. So thank you everyone for still being a part of this continued webinar. We appreciate your time and participation and passion for missing children issues. Ambassador Damon P.K. Wamara is the Executive Director at Uganda Child Rights NGO Network, which is a network of over 200 child rights organizations. Previously, he worked as the Country Director for Dwelling Places, an NGO that works in Uganda with street-connected children. Damon also sits on the National Task Force on Prevention of Trafficking in Persons and the Alternative Care think tank representing the voices of the children. He was invited to join the advisory board of Uganda Coalition Against Trafficking in Persons, a collaboration of more than 30 civil society organizations that are working around preventing and curbing human trafficking. He also serves as the chairperson of the board for Eastern African Child Rights Network and the CSO Forum to the African Union Charter on the Rights and Welfare of Children. Damon is also the CSO representative of Uganda for the Global Alliance CSO Forum on Ending Violence Against Children. He's also a member of the CSO National Reference Group on the Spotlight Initiative. He's a recipient of the U.S. Department of Labor 2020 Iqbal Masti Award on Elimination of Worst Forms of Child Labor and a nominee for the 2020 European Union Human Rights Defenders Award. In 2022, Damon was awarded the Diamond Ambassador Award by Ugandan Matthias University in recognition of the work he does for children. He hopes to play a part in empowering, ensuring that the next generation is protected from all forms of exploitation. He has been working with children and families for the past 10 years in the areas of HIV/AIDS prevention and treatment, family empowerment, child trafficking prevention, curtailing child labor, curbing family separation, and in advocacy at the grassroots level. He's an ethics and development studies graduate from one of Africa's best missionary university, Ugandan Matthias University, emerging as a development worker or social worker. Damon, welcome.
Thank you very much, Marianne, for the presentation. Please confirm you can hear me. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Marianne, for the warm welcome, and also everyone for the wonderful presentation. I've really been enriched on the issue of missing children in Africa. And I'm glad to be a part of this conversation today in the shoes of Eastern Africa Child Rights Network And my presentation will definitely be based on the regional engagement and also the continental development. You can move to the next slide, please. A little bit about Eastern Africa Child Rights Network. We are a coalition of networks of 9 coalitions or 9 countries in the Eastern Africa region. And when we talk about that, we are talking about Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Somaliland, South Sudan, South Sudan, and Madagascar. And we are trying to ensure that we can have more of the countries from the Eastern Africa come together. So it's a coalition of the networks that exist in the countries that work with children. And we are registered as an entity in Kenya, but we cover the whole of the Eastern Africa. And Eastern Africa, according to the African Union, set boundaries of what Eastern Africa is. The ESRN is also the co-secretariat of the CSO Forum, which is a forum for child rights organizations that work on the issues of children, definitely, and at the African Committee, African Charter on the Rights and the Welfare of the Children. And we also a member of YACSOF. YACSOF is the Eastern Africa Civil Society Forum, which deals with issues, with the space at the ESC level, the East Africa states level, and where we are able to present still the issues of children. Next slide. Our vision and mission as an organization is that we want to see, first of all, an Eastern Africa region where children enjoy their rights to survival, development, and protection and participation. All those are derived from both the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child and also the UNCRC. And our mission is to ensure that we can enhance and build the capacity of our national coalitions to promote evidence-based advocacy on child rights issues within Eastern Africa. So having looked at the issue, next slide, that having looked at our mission and our vision as an organization, you will see that the issue that we're talking about, next slide, please. The issue that we're talking about pertains the ability for us to build advocacy and also for us to be able to engage on this issue cross-border. When you talk about and I'm not going to dwell much on this because I think the constant conversation you've had from everyone is we do not have enough statistics, we do not have enough numbers, we do not know the numbers in Eastern Africa, we do not know the numbers in Africa at large. We have only estimates of what the situation would be in the whole world and also what the estimates generally at what the situation is, which for me poses already a challenge for us to be able to get and appreciate how dire the situation is for these children. And for Africa, that says that we're leaving no one behind and we're leaving no child behind. This is a critical conversation for us to have, the missing children in Africa. There are no clear statistics that are being shared anywhere. There is the main category, if you go to the African Union level, they will be quickly categorized as children on the move or children out without parental care, but all these are still children. When you look at also the situation with children who are in refugee situations, Uganda is a host to the largest number of refugees in the whole of Africa. It used to be in the whole world until the Ukraine crisis came, but now we have the largest number in the whole of Africa. And when you look at the majority of the refugees that we're talking about, these are actually children. And these are children, and we have children who are actually moving without their parents. How do we reunify these children? How do we reintegrate these children back with their families? How do we ensure that these children are protected well? And then likewise, we talk about children on the streets. Children on the streets, and then we talk about trafficking across the borders. When you're talking about missing children, you've had the conversations. The lady from Namibia already mentioned that they get cases from South Africa, they get cases from as far as Uganda, they get cases from all over. When you talk about missing children, you are definitely going to talk about borders. And we know that when we're talking about borders, borders are not marked areas. These are open areas, and so children end up crossing over and are exposed so much. When you talk about also missing children, and I think Marianne brought this out clearly when she talked about the culture situation. And I'll give you a situation that is in Uganda around FGM, the female genital mutilation. It was outlawed in Uganda. We have laws that are ensuring that children are protected from that barbaric act on the girls. But you'll find that girls are being trafficked and are taken into Kenya, where the FGM is done, where it is performed on them, and then the girls are sent to stay in caves. And when they're staying in caves, some of the girls never come out of the caves. Nothing is known about these girls. But people are silent. We're silent on the matter. So the cultural impact, because people are trying to fulfill culture, has actually made many of the children go missing. We talk about child sacrifice, the children that are abducted, and then we end up getting. Uganda has had many cases. I have known other countries that have equally had cases of child sacrifice as a purpose, as a fulfillment of rituals of elections. Kenya, you're going into elections right now. How many children are going to go missing as a result of the elections because of rituals and of trying to gain power? All these are considerations that come up when we talk about missing children. And the children could be from Uganda, they could be from Kenya, they could be from Tanzania. Remember, the children don't even understand what we call borders and boundaries. And yet we know that children are trafficked across the border. Marianne knows the conversation we have had where Ugandan children have been trafficked from Uganda. They've moved into Nairobi, and now we're hearing that the children are now in Somalia. So now, does this remain a trafficking issue for Uganda alone? Does it remain a trafficking issue for Kenya alone? They have gone through, they have passed through, and have ended up in Somalia. We don't even know where those children have now gone to, and we don't have any record of where these children have ended up. And then when we look at the legal measures on curbing trafficking, but also other issues around missing children, like Marianne mentioned in the presentation and also shared with the work, most African countries do not have any specific law on this issue of missing children. And it's very, very good to hear from both Kenya and Tanzania. And I think we have a lot to pick a leaf from in both countries on how you are coming up with the guidelines and how you are engaging to ensure that these guidelines and everything is coming in place. For me, those are good legislation points. We start with guidelines, and then we end up coming and progressing until we get a strong law that can definitely ensure that when children go missing, the country is not silent, and there is actual engagement between the different countries. Then the right of children who are missing are violated. If they are sacrificed, they are killed. Their private parts are cut off. Their specific parts are cut off on ritual for ritual purposes. All these are most of the things that we need to talk about. But nevertheless, we are not at a loss as a country, as a continent, and even as different countries. We're never at a loss. We're not really at a loss because at least Africa has the Africa Charter on the rights and the welfare of the children. So even if there are no specific laws all around, at least we have the charter. And although the charter does not specifically have anything that talks about issues around missing children, at least we have the ground where we can begin to have the conversation, because most of the countries that I had making presentations today are ratified to the African Charter on the Rights and the Welfare of the Children. And it is actually obligates the state to ensure that all children are protected and are safe. Then we also have the protocols and the different declarations by the UN. We have the Palermo Protocol, we have the Maputo Protocol in Africa, we have the Maputo Protocol. At the UN, we have the Palermo Protocol. The Palermo Protocol specifically talks about trafficking in persons and how every state should ensure that children are a priority and are protected in whatever case, and ensure that every government does whatever it has to do to ensure that children are not victims of trafficking. The Maputo Protocol talks about mainly the protection of women and discrimination of women, and ensure that women are not further put at risk of being exploited or being taken advantage of. Next slide. I now jump straight into the protocols, the opportunities. The opportunities that we have. Although I have talked about all the hardships, and everyone has brought out very many of these hardships, these are some of the opportunities that I see that we have. One, we have some existing structures. We have existing structures, like we have had very clearly spoken of. The child helplines have been very instrumental in Kenya, in Tanzania, in Namibia, in all these countries. Likewise, like mentioned by our colleague from Kenya, the Child Helpline 116 is one of the most cut across numbers, and it was intentional that the number should be 116, so that wherever a child will go, when they are in the crossover into Kenya, when they crossover into Tanzania, whichever place they go to, they only are aware that I only need to call 116, all free, and I'll be able to receive. So we have those structures. We have a place to start. We're not at ground zero. We at least have a place to start. Secondly, we have, even though countries do not have specific laws, like I have mentioned, we at least have the African Charter, and not what I put there is the committee, but we have the African Charter, and we actually even have the committee members, fully fledged committee members for both the African Charter and also the UNCRC, the UN Charter. For the African Charter, we can engage. We have opportunities to engage the African Committee of Experts and raise these critical issues on children on the move. What is the committee saying that to ensure that when children are on the move, they're protected and they don't end up being misplaced, abandoned or left for death, or whatever case that makes them become vulnerable to become victims of missing children. And then also the UNCRC, how do we engage with them? How can we ensure that we engage with the committee? South Africa has actually one of the members of this committee. Can we possibly engage with these people so that we can have these conversations, and they can also have conversations with the countries, have a communication that goes out that pushes the governments to ensure that there is legislation or the measures put in place to protect children. Then also we have existing forums. I've had many people cry out and say, guys, let's get together, let's ensure we push. We have forums that we can have this engagement. We have the Eastern Africa Child Rights Network, where we can be able to push agendas and have conversations with the Eastern Africa, with the ESC, and with the African Committee. We have also the CSO Forum. The CSO Forum provides a platform for us to raise these critical issues, to raise statements and engage with the African Committee of Experts, where we can be able to raise these critical issues on missing children. Just to let us know that the African Committee of Experts functions with thematic groups. So I would want to encourage Marianne and the team. Can we see where the thematic groups of the African Committee of Experts, where can we push the agenda? Where can we raise the critical issues of where can we raise the critical issues of protecting children or missing children, and ensure that the missing children are there? Then also we have opportunities. We have the growing child rights organizations like Missing Children. You're growing. I mean, there's missing children in Namibia, there's missing children in South Africa, there's missing children in Kenya, there's missing children in Tanzania. I'm now tempted to making sure that there's missing children in Uganda. But we have a platform already. We have a following already that we can ensure that we can have this conversation and don't get tired of talking and engaging with this conversation. And the issues of children are easy to engage with. The opportunities is that when it comes to issues of children, no one wants to politicize it. People are very easy to engage on these issues. They will have a good rallying from government, from different places. We only need to know which buttons to push and how to engage on them. We need to have good partners. We have had research, we have talked about documentation, we have talked about numbers, we have talked about studies, but I think it is very important that we begin to be also deliberate, to have research and also documentation and engagement with organizations like SCPF, the CSO Forum, SCI, Plan International, and all these other different forums to see how we can be able to support, to get statistics, to get documentation and information that we can surely share and ensure that people are able to engage on them. I was once told that I am very good at we are very good as CSOs at raising critical issues, but the problem is we never bring facts to the table. We don't bring documentation to the table. We are always good at talking. We need to bring hard substance to the table. Then, as I conclude, my conclusion would be that there is need for us to have deliberate engagement to know the magnitude of the issue at country level, first of all, and then at continental level. Even if we do not have all that we want to have, we still need to start somewhere. So with the little that we have, can we be able to collect it and be able to produce a sense of understanding on, and say that this is an experience, this is a capturing from a few of the countries in Africa, and this is what it represents. Can we please have an engagement with all African countries and ensure we have all of that captured? We need to also ensure that children's rights are a reality in all countries. If we can push and ensure that whichever country is in the African continent, is in the whole world, children's rights are respected and are protected. That means wherever our children will go, whether they end up being abandoned, whether they end up being whatever the case might be, we are sure that our children are safe, and all we need to do then is to reunify. So this is why it is important for all of us to rally around the fact of making sure that all our countries are a safe space, are a safe environment, and children's rights are respected across the continent. Then we'll be sure that whether a child is in Kenya, whether a child is in Namibia, South Africa, wherever a child is, whatever the color, whether they're albino, black, disabled, children with disabilities, or whichever state the child is in, they are protected and they are safe. And that for me would be one of the quickest wins we can have to ensure that whatever the state the child will be in, they are safe and they are protected. We have a lot of work to do. I have very many stories that I could share with you about Sudan and many other countries on how children get lost, children disappear, but we still need to ensure that whichever place the child is in, they are safe and are not exploited, but are thriving as an African child. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Damon. And just a Pan-African look on everything that has been shared today is very insightful. I know we have eaten much into the time that the webinar was initially set up for, but I also appreciate the rich discourse and presentations that have been there. Like I mentioned, this is a showcase, the beginning of many conversations to come about this. And this brings us to the point where we are asking, we have fantastic institutions and agencies dealing with matters of missing children. Then what next? What next? Where next do we go to? And so as I share a little bit about what next in terms of this up-and-coming webinar series, I will ask the panelists to prepare their 1 minute parting shots, and we will be able to discuss some more. My vision for Africa is to create a community of best practice in terms of missing children issues and initiatives, so that we can be able to see how best to tackle all these challenges that we have spoken about together, and look at keeping our children safer and also equipping and empowering the community. The solutions do not lie outside of what we have spoken of today, they lie within us. And that is why I'm looking at the next steps forward. If you could just light up my presentation, please. So for me, like I said, objective number 3 of this webinar was to set up a community of best practice in terms of agencies and initiatives that are dealing with missing children matters in Africa. And I'm guided by these 6 principles that I will just touch on a little bit. Policy and legislature has been largely mentioned, as we have seen in most of the presentations. A collaborative philosophy is very important to us. The place of technology, the place of psychosocial support, and community awareness and participation, and also data. So I'll just delve into them a little bit. Remember, this is an introduction of what is now to come after we have seen all the amazing things that all these agencies and initiatives are doing. Next slide, please. If we look at policy and legislature, we are looking at, it is a global issue lacking a global response. So we are looking at using a Missing Children Council of Africa so that we can work on broad recommendations for addressing the issue of missing children that can be integrated into existing national and regional approaches to child protection. And so as Missing Child Kenya, when we were hosting this webinar, we were looking at a Pan-African Council where I'm even excited, Damon has said now he's going to look at setting up Missing Child Uganda and many other countries that are interested or looking at how to set up such initiatives. Collaborative philosophy. We need to work together to provide streamlined care, and this will help us in terms of it will be more comprehensive and traceable on all the steps that we take. Like Damon said, data needs to make sense. It will reduce time and resources spent across borders, and it will even include the community and create for us better working relationships. If I look at the next slide, we're looking at technology. Like we said, technology has come out strongly. Tanzania is looking into web applications, and different countries are also looking at the different ways they can be able to look at using technology. One thing that I'd like to challenge us is to determine if our current or anticipated model is designed for use by the children themselves as well. Somebody asked me, I had an opportunity with the Eisenhower Fellowship, and I got a chance to talk to lovely people from the National Missing and Exploited Children Center, NICMEC, in America, and they asked me, has the child ever called your toll-free line? And it struck me as very interesting because we are connected and our children are able to use these devices. So how are we tailoring the user experience of children in what we are doing so that it plays a vital role in where we are going? And this has been largely mentioned within all the presentations that have been sent and given to us. Psychosocial support, Africans, we rarely talk about the impact of missing children and those left behind. A case in point is Nigeria, the Chibok girls. Their families have gone through a lot and they continue to go through a lot. So we'd like to see how to extend our psychosocial support networks within the African Missing Children Council and see how to best support each other. Next slide, please. If we look at community awareness and participation, we need the community when it comes to sharing these alerts, because without them, we cannot be able to share any information across even borders. And so when we create such communities, we are able to use technology to share alerts faster. Data, everybody has agreed and talked about data. Data is there, but it's in different pockets. It's about time we collected this data together. Kenya has data through Missing Child Kenya, different CSO initiatives, the Directorate of Children's Services, Tanzania, different countries have data. Let us bring this data and impact change for missing children in Africa. And so as I conclude and thank the participants very much for having taken this time to share their initiatives, to share the amazing work that they are doing. I just appreciate also all the people that joined on this webinar, whether in the Zoom link or on the YouTube live stream, for also being a concerned part of issues of missing children in Africa, because it takes a village. And so I will still say the village has advanced with digital connectivity. So even the village has now become much bigger. We have participation even from America within the participants, as I am seeing. And so I'll just go back to mentioning our participants one by one and having them give their parting shot. Remember, we can be contacted. We are looking to create this African Missing Children Council as Missing Child Kenya to be hosted as a secretariat. And so we'll see how to bring all of us together and see how to organize ourselves as a conglomerate that we can present our issues to the necessary bodies, partners, communities to grow ourselves. Feel free to reach out on me, and we can be able to take the conversation on the way forward. And our next webinar series will also be taking us on the way forward for the countries and initiatives that have joined on the Africa Missing Children Council. So I'll go back to my panelists one by one and just ask them to give a brief parting shot. Remember, this was a presentation of sorts to introduce these agencies and initiatives to all of us, to start some conversation so that the next time we meet in this forum, we'll be able now to have direct, comprehensive dialogue on what next for each and every one of our initiatives. I will start by requesting Rosalia from Namibia, if you have your parting shot, your 1 minute parting shot. As we wait for Rosalia, can Damon please go ahead?
Yeah, thank you very much, Marianne, for getting us into this conversation. I have
Thank you. Regina, if we have Regina, if you could give your parting shots.
Okay. So I will your team for putting all of us here together. And to all our attendees, I would want to encourage, let's continue to prioritize issues of missing children. We all have a role to play. For me, I have this vision, and that is what I'm envisaging, that we have a system not only in Ghana, but in Africa and then beyond, where it is at a minute, a child goes missing, we find the child, reintegrate the child. So together we help our children to enjoy their rights. I'm happy to be part of this, and I'm excited, looking forward for great partnership in doing this. So we continue to do this. And congratulations to all of us for the incredible work we are doing in Africa for our children.
Next, Faith Mkonyi, Tanzania, Sisema.
What about now? I just wanted to say that I'm very thankful to Mariana and your team for making this possible, for giving us a platform to speak on the status of missing children in Africa and in our respective countries. I my parting shot is I just think we just need to keep working together as stakeholders, as institutions who are concerned with child protection and keeping children safe, and just keep sharing ideas on how we can make this thing as important as it is. Also, I would just like to say that we just keep using our platforms, the platforms that we have, our positions in society, to keep spreading awareness and just making sure that everyone is informed and everyone is vigilant in keeping track on what's going on with the kids in their neighborhood, and just being there for the people, because they are the ones that are affected the most in our societies, and keeping them safe should be our priority. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to have Winifrida from Missing Child Tanzania.
Hello, can you all hear me? Okay, thank you so much, Mariana and Mtoto News, for preparing this platform and this webinar, that we are able to share our views, to share our struggles as organizations and countries in particular. I would like to urge every person or attendee and panelist and whoever joined this webinar to jump in whenever there is a gap that has been left by the government when it comes to protection of our children. And it should be remembered, it's not the job of just one person, it's our job as the community, as CSOs and stakeholders in child protection. So wherever the government, wherever we are needed, we should just jump right in and just do what it takes to make a better place for our children. So that is what I'll have to say. And thank you so much.
Rosalia from Namibia, Missing Persons Unit Namibia. You're on mute.
All right. Thank you so much, Mariana, for availing this opportunity for us to share and engage with one another in terms of missing kids in Africa. Looking forward for future collaborations within the various stakeholders, and let's continue advocating and standing as well as supporting each other's initiatives. Let's continue advocating for missing kids in Africa. Thank you.
Martha from Kenya, 116, Childline 116, Martha. If we could have Bianca.
Thanks, Mariana. Yes, it was wonderful to hear everybody voice the same concern, everybody standing together and fighting for the rights of our children and those that are missing. Looking forward to this collaboration and really making our voices heard in Africa on children going missing and bringing those numbers down and reuniting those that are missing with their families. Thank you so much for putting this together, and looking forward to our future together and looking to bring the numbers of children going missing in Africa down and once again making our voices heard throughout, not just throughout Africa, but throughout the world.
Very much, Bianca. And all the organizations that have presented today have their social media platforms. If you search through Missing Child Kenya, you'll see that we have tagged them on each and every post that we were doing as a campaign to this. Please follow. One of the main connectivity areas of sharing and distributing the alerts is social media before they go to their extended platform. So I encourage everyone to join and follow Missing Child Tanzania, Missing Child Kenya, Missing Persons Unit Namibia, Missing Children Ghana, Missing Children South Africa, SEMA 116 Tanzania, Childline 116 Kenya, and also the Eastern African Child Rights Network. And together, if we form a community that is both online and offline, we can be able to do much more. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your patience, your extended grace in this very wonderful conversation, for showcasing these agencies and initiatives. And as we look forward to what the future holds for the African Missing Children Council. Keep it locked. We'll be able to share more opportunities on upcoming meetings and the way forward. Thank you. Be blessed. Have a good week ahead.